This election has become the latest to weaponize something called critical race theory. Critical race theory is it's become the new dog whistle, except you can actually hear it, so it's not really a dog whistle.
Yeah, let's start there. Critical race theory not taught in Virginia schools.
I'm the science coach and admin in the largest public school district in Indiana. I'm in dozens of classrooms a week, so I see exactly what we're teaching our students. When we tell you that schools aren't teaching critical race theory, that it's nowhere in our standards, that's misdirection. We don't have the quotes and theories as state standards per se. We do have critical race theory in how we teach. We tell our teachers to treat students differently based on color. We tell our students that every problem is a result of white men, and that everything Western civilization built is racist. Capitalism as a tool of white supremacy. Those are straight out of Kimberly Crenshaw's main points, verbatim in Critical Race Theory, the writings that formed the movement. This is in math, history, science, English, the arts, and it's not slowing down.
But it does show that Republicans are good. It's dishonest. It's not a good faith argument, but they are talented at branding. They're talented at making an election about certain issues, even if they don't have any basis in reality.
One key issue for Youngkin, opposition to the teaching of critical race theory in schools. The curriculum is not taught in Virginia schools, and McAuliffe has called the tactic a racist dog whistle.
Hi guys, I'm CJ Pearson. I'm a sophomore in college and I've attended public schools all of my life. So when it comes to the issue of critical race theory, I take it personally because it's something that I have to fight against every single day. Critical race theory isn't the kumbaya Black History Month talk that leftists like to pretend that it is. They like you to think for some odd reason that critical race theory is just teaching Black history, teaching slavery, teaching desegregation, the history of America. Well, guys, it's not that. Critical race theory is about teaching young people where America used to be or what it was. Critical race theory is about teaching young people to hate white people today. It's about blaming white people for sins they weren't even alive themselves to commit. It's about teaching victimhood. It's about teaching Black people that they should somehow still be victimized by slavery even though they were never alive to be slaves. It's about teaching white people that they are somehow responsible for slavery even though they were not even old enough to be slave owners. It's about apparently teaching Black people how to have pride in their heritage and their culture while teaching white people that they should be ashamed of theirs every single day.
What he calls critical race theory, even though it's not taught in Virginia schools.
You can't take away from parents is the ones that listened over the Zoom calls for the last year. You can't take away the experience from them of hearing the foolishness that their children were being taught. I don't care what name you give it or what you call it. You are not going to teach my little Black kids that because of their Black skin, they aren't going to make it. Because of their Black skin, they aren't going to be anything. And I don't think it's fair that you teach little white kids because of their white skin that they're privileged or they're inherently evil. You can't take away the experience that parents have had over the last year. So you can get on TV and you can lie and you can, say, well, technically it's not critical race theory or whatever. You can say that, but you cannot take away what we experienced during this pandemic and listening to what our children were learning.
A lot of them believe that critical race theory is being taught in the schools. They don't like that, but it's really not on the curriculum in Virginia.
I keep seeing this take, critical race theory is not in schools, it's all a Republican lie, it's gaslighting, blah, 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 blah. Okay, critical race theory, critical pedagogy, all of it, not just critical race theory, but critical pedagogy is in schools. It's, to suggest otherwise is patently false. Gloria Ladson-Billings in the 1990s wrote a paper, What is Critical Race Theory Doing in a Nice Field Like Education? Okay, in the 90s. Kimberly Crenshaw wrote another scholarly article about celebrating 20 years of critical race theory. And in it, she says critical race theory has worked its way into all sorts of different fields, including philosophy, economics, and education. Paulo Freire, not a critical race theorist, but he is a critical pedagogue, is one of the most assigned texts in schools of education, okay? Are students reading Richard Delgado, a critical race theorist, in high school classrooms? No, but the language, the theory, the philosophy, the application, the arguments, the policies of critical theory in general, not just critical race theory, are worked into every part of schooling right now, okay? It starts in the academy, and then it leaks on to everything else. There are interesting discussions to be had about whether or not a high school student could learn about critical theory like they learn about communism or capitalism, okay? These are debates that we can have. But we got to start from a place of truth, which is that critical theory is in K-12 education, okay? I'm a teacher. Make sure to follow this. Not a lot of people are saying this. Not a lot of teachers are, but I know other people are thinking it.
Critical race theory that is not taught in public schools in Virginia.
But critical race theory is not taught in Virginia K through 12 schools.
Critical race theory, as we know, isn't taught in Virginia schools.
There's no evidence it's been taught in public schools.
It is not taught in any Virginia high school.
It's not taught in public schools.
Guys, when did we ever start treating, when did anti-racism become actual racism? Because that is exactly what this is. They claim that CRT is about creating anti-racists who hate other people of a different color, because that's all we see. Guys, they try to act so self-righteous about this stuff. They try to say, well, this is what MLK would want. In what world is this what MLK would want? MLK talked about a dream in which people would not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. CRT makes you think about everything in every way, through every lens, as nothing more than about color, about race, and that was not his dream. But most importantly, guys, I can't speak for everyone, but I'll speak for me as a young black man in America. I don't need to be taught to hate white people to be proud of who I am, and that is that. I've been black all my life. I can't change that. And hating white people won't make that any easier. Not that it's hard anyways.
This is a post-factual error. It doesn't matter that it isn't taught in Virginia schools. It's this generalized attitude that whites are being put upon, and we've got to do something about it, we being white voters.
You may say, well, it's not critical race theory, but what it is bullshit. And what is not going to be taught is to my children. And you have parents that have stood up in Virginia and said, no, this is not going to work. And parents across the country are starting to be more privy to what's happening in the classroom, the sexual orientations, foolishness that's being pushed in the classroom. And you're not going to tell a parent, especially a mother who carried her child for 40 weeks, that she has now no right over what her child learns. That's not going to work. So the Democrats are going to have to go back to the drawing board and figure out something else, because when you start pushing parents out of a child's life, that's when you're going to meet some mama and papa bears for sure.
I think that the real ominous thing is that critical race theory, which isn't real, turned the suburbs 15 points to the Trump insurrection endorsed Republican. What do Democrats do about that?
All teaching is political, with reality and facts taking the back seat. That's Dr. Gloria Ladson-Billings, who outlined how she saw critical race theory fleshed out in public schools in 1995. When schools tell you that we aren't teaching critical race theory, it means one thing: go away and look into our affairs no further. It isn't about transparency, it isn't about cultural relevance. It's race essentialism, painted to look like the district cares about students of color. We call it anti-racism, so you feel bad if you disagree with our segregationist pedagogy. It's taking advantage of kids' vulnerability and parents' inactivity to preen over social snake oil schemes designed to create division. Parents, when we tell you critical race theory isn't taught in our schools, we're lying. Keep looking.
A Fox News investigation has found the Virginia Department of Education recommended a controversial book in March 2020 to all stakeholders as part of its EdEquity VA. On page 11, Love writes, lastly, teachers must embrace theories such as critical race theory.
It's absolutely taught in Virginia. In fact, Terry McAuliffe promoted critical race theory to all public schools when he was last governor in 2015.
If you're making something up that's not true, I'm gonna chase you all over the state, mock and ridicule you, and people are gonna be laughing at you. The fact that he kept bringing this up and Terry didn't have an answer other than to say parents shouldn't be involved in their kids' classrooms. Oh my God, this is real. And if it's not real, then that's just pure malpractice by Democrats from coast to coast.